Hey guys, we are in the basement, and today I want to talk about a new game I got from my arcade. It's actually a pretty different game. It's actually a lot different than the games I've collected in the past. You know, it's kind of funny. I've had a lot of people say to me, I get these messages all the time, you know, your arcade needs game X. How come you don't have game Y? You know, your arcade would be really complete if you got one of these games. And there's actually one game in particular that people have said the most, and you know what, it got me thinking, why don't I have one of those? You know, I really should have one of those, because really, I like people to have fun when they come down here, and so I always try to get fun games that I like too, you know, or games that I want to get into, and you know what, I did, I picked up this new game, and you know what, it's a game from the 90s actually. You know, all of these games I've collected have been from the 80s, and I didn't really kind of play arcade games in the 90s. Actually, I mean, by the time the 90s came around, all arcades were pretty much gone. I mean, there was a couple arcades I can think of, and I never got into this genre of game. I kind of was on the outside of it. The Neo Geo actually is the closest I've ever gotten into this 90s world of gaming. And actually, King of Fighters 98, and by the way, I am talking about fighting games. King of Fighters 98 is actually the closest I've ever really gotten into this world, and I actually never played King of Fighters till I got my Neo Geo. I actually love it. It's a great fighting game, but there's another fighting game out there that everyone says, this is the one you have to have, this is the game, and I just never got into it. But you know what? I am getting into it. It's actually pretty badass. So, but the game's not down here yet. It's actually in the garage. So let's go in the garage and let's check it out. Okay, so here we are, we're outside the garage. So, what is this mystery game from the 90s, you wonder? Well, here it is. And by the way, yes, I know, my garage is a freaking disaster. Look at this crap. But anyway, the game that we're talking about is, of course, none other than Street Fighter 2! Woohoo! So anyway, I knew that I wanted to get a fighting game. I just didn't know which one. I kind of had my eyes on either a Mortal Kombat or a Street Fighter. And I was just kind of waiting around for that right game to show up, the right circumstances, and it just did. Actually, a local collector friend agreed to trade with me this game for some Nintendo Versus games. So here it is. It's in my garage. I have nowhere to put it in my basement. I think I can kind of wedge it in on the end over there. But the cabinet that I got here is a Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition Turbo Hyper Fighting. If you look here, actually, some punk must have punched this game, and they totally crashed the marquee. So I have a new one coming. This cabinet is what they call the Z-Back cabinet there. And basically, it's my understanding is this. The original Street Fighter 2 didn't have a dedicated cabinet at all. It was only a kit that was sold to arcade operators to convert old games into Street Fighter 2s. So they sold it just as a kit. And then they came out with Champion Edition, and this actually was in a dedicated cabinet. Now, this, depending on who you ask, there was one cabinet in particular that was actually kind of special looking, and it was unique to Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition. It actually looked a lot like kind of like a Neo Geo style cabinet, and so they released that cabinet, and then Capcom also sold Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition in Dynamo cabs, the Z-Back, which is what this one is. See, the back has like a Z cut in the back, and then also the Dynamo HS5. Now, some purists out there will say, no, that's not a dedicated. The dedicated is this other cabinet. And other people say, no, you're wrong, because Capcom sold it from the factory this way. So basically, you know, Capcom was a Japanese company, so they really weren't set up to make cabinets in the US, so they kind of outsourced it to Dynamo, and basically they just sent them the PCBs and the artwork and who knows what, and then they sold them in these generic kind of cabinets. And this is a 25-inch cabinet. This is actually not a Dynamo cabinet, though. This cabinet is actually made by 3Com, and it's kind of a Dynamo looking type cabinet. Actually, this company is actually the same company that makes my Neo Geo 4-slot downstairs. It is a 25-inch monitor cabinet, and it has the kind of Dynamo looking front control panel with these little notches. This is a 6-button fighting game, which is different than Neo Geo, because Neo Geo has 4 buttons. So now I've got, more buttons, and it's basically a modified JAMA setup, because JAMA, I believe, is only 4 buttons per player. And so they added this thing called a kick harness. They added more buttons, and it's added to the PCB. It's actually a pretty cool cabinet to have. I should actually show you guys how it works. Let me go in here and open the control panel, and I can kind of show you how this all works. I have to reach underneath and unsnap the control panel. So, alright, so you can kind of see here, the control panel tilts back, and what's cool about this cabinet is that the PCB is on a drawer here. Now there's two little latches here, there's one here, and there's one here. And then this whole thing, if I do this well, hang on, the whole thing kind of slides out like so. There you go. If you can see that, the whole front of it slides out. So this is actually a really cool cabinet to have because you can easily switch out other JAMA boards, and this uses the JAMA standard, and I believe this here, yeah, this is the kick harness right here that plugs in there, and it brings those extra buttons down here. So anyway, that's the cabinet. It actually has like a normal PC power type supply back there. Very cool, neat setup, you know, so if you put this in a row next to other games, you don't have to pull the cabinet out to change the game. You just slide this drawer out, and here's the PCB, and you swap it out. Now, this is a Capcom CPS-1 board, and I'm actually going to, I think, upgrade this to Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, which is a CPS-2, which is a totally different hardware system. But anyway, let me kind of put this together. Also, I should mention that this version of Street Fighter was actually a response from Capcom because there was a lot of bootleg versions of Street Fighter 2, and they basically were trying to speed up the gameplay. There's all these like modification boards like Hyper and Turbo and Mania. They just used all these crazy words, and so Capcom said, hey, we got to stop this. So they basically made what they thought was the ultimate version of Street Fighter, so that way there was no marketplace for the bootlegs and for the mods. So this is the official mod. It's the Turbo Hyper Fighting. It's basically a faster version of Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition. And anyway, let me put this all back together, set up the tripod, and show you guys how this plays. Okay, here we are. We have the tripod set up. Now, the first thing I want to point out here is that this game has two sets of controls, one for each player. So you can play head-to-head against a buddy, or you can play against the computer. Now, each player gets 6 buttons. The top 3 buttons are for punch, and the bottom 3 are kick or high and low, I guess you could say, whatever. Now, they're labeled jab, strong, and fierce for the top, and then short, forward, and roundhouse for the kick. Now, it's my understanding it's also kind of like light, medium, hard, and light, medium, hard, punch, and kick. Now, the joysticks are 8-way joysticks. I know that Street Fighter people are really particular about what kind of joystick. I believe these are HAP joysticks, which is what came in this cabinet. Now, one thing I really want to point out here is that I am not a Street Fighter guy. I am not that guy. This video is not going to show you some badass techniques and moves because that's not me. I've been a Street Fighter player for about 3 days now, okay? So I've never been into this game. And in fact, like the first day I owned it, I couldn't beat anybody. I could not get past the first person. Now, I've learned a couple very minor button combinations here, but playing this game is like an absolute art, and people who are really good at it, I give you guys mad props because I don't know any of those button combinations, and really, quite frankly, I suck at this game. So this video is really just to kind of show you what the game is, and it's really for people who don't play Street Fighter like me. Actually, I do now, but anyway, if you're looking for hardcore techniques, this is not the video. Sorry. Let's start the game. Now, this is Champion Edition, so right now we only have a choice between 12 different players. In Super Street Fighter, they actually introduced more players like Cammy and all that. And I guess some of these guys are bosses, is my understanding. And that was kind of the big deal with this, was that you could play as the bosses. I honestly don't know who the bosses are, but anyway, E Honda is the guy I've been playing as lately because I kind of figured out his cheap move, which is like this. I just push these buttons here, and he just kind of goes like crazy. And so back is block, and I guess this guy has like that kind of move. I learned that. You hold the joystick back for 2 seconds and then press one of the punch buttons and he'll lunge forward. But I'm not doing very well. So, alright, let's see if we can get back in here. Alright, so we beat him. And basically, in the single-player game, you're trying to get as far as you can. And there's actually, like, mini-games after every 3 rounds, which is actually kind of cool. Like, the first mini-game has you, like, basically beating up a car. You have to destroy it within a minute. So I actually never really knew that there was these mini-games in it. It's actually kind of cool. So let's kill this dude. I know, I'm really not a good player, so what I'm doing right now is probably very cheap, I don't know, but it seems to be working for me, so I'm running with it. Alright, so I beat that dude. It says, can't you do better than that? Alright, so I guess we're kind of moving around the globe, going from challenger to challenger, and now we're fighting this guy, Del Sim, whatever his name is, and this guy's actually really annoying, because he's got long arms and he throws fireballs at you. See, he just lit me on fire, so... I hate these guys that throw shit at you, honestly. It's so freaking annoying. Alright. I need to jump over that fire. Seems to beat me. So, but you know, this game is obviously best played with friends, but I kind of am enjoying playing against the computer to see how far I can get on 1 credit. Really suck at this game. Alright, anyway, I have lost. Basically, you're playing best of 3 rounds, so if you lose twice, you're done, your game's over. Now, you can continue, which I think is kind of cheap, so I'm not going to continue. But anyway, there you guys have it. That is Street Fighter 2, and I know, I suck at the game. It's alright. So anyway, pretty cool. I like the cabinet. I'm probably going to get some side art for this. They make the Street Fighter Champion Edition side art. I'll throw that on there. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with this game. It's a very cool cab. And by the way, check this out, guys. I just won this in a pinball raffle. One of the local collectors decided to raffle this pinball off. He sold 12 tickets, and I freaking won. So, I don't know where this is going to go, but this is big guns, and I'll have a video about this soon as I get everything working 100%. It's got a couple little minor issues. Anyway, guys, there you have it. Thanks for watching my videos. Thanks for subscribing. I think we're almost about 2,000 subscribers, and really, I just want to thank you for doing that. And if you haven't subscribed, please do, and check out my other videos, and we'll see you guys later.